Yeah, Valley's cleared, Cheslin's cleared. Edwell will have to manage this week. Makazola will have to manage this week. But both stand a chance to be available against Ireland. Faf we have to manage this week. And then obviously the only other guy that won't be available who's training is Jasper out of the whole group. So it's those three.
There's been a lot of talk, obviously, before this test series. The Irish have reacted to some of the comments that people like Damon did in interviews. And Simon Zebo said, "You hate the Irish," in the podcast. Do you expect there to be a bit of needle in this game, given the history between the two sides?
Well, if there's one team that's certainly got the upper hand, it just shows on paper that since 2016, I never want to make us the underdogs, and we don't want to be the underdogs. But I mean, the stats is there. We haven't beaten them since 2016. Then just on the Simon Zebo thing, I mean, he messaged me. People who know Simon Zebo would know he's a joke. He's a joker, you know. Every chance he gets, he makes a joke or a little crack here and there. And he immediately messaged me and says, "Listen, yeah, that came out totally wrong. They totally didn't understand what I was trying to say." He apologized and said, "Must he go back on air and rectify it?" And I said, "No, man, it spice it up. Let's keep it that way."
Coach, next week the new rules coming into full effect. You had a bit around this past week as well. What did you make of the new rules?
No, it's not something big for us. You know, the scrum, I think there was 2 free kicks. I think we had 1 against us. So, you know, you just have to decide, are you going to slow that free kick down and kick it up and under, or if it's inside your 22, are you going to kick it out? Or are you actually going to quick tap? Or when it's close to the goal line, are you actually now going to do a set move, the old school moves, if you understand what I'm saying. And then, you know, the DuPont rule where the forwards must stand still, we've never actually done that where we advanced. It was only France that really did that, so that's not a big change. Then, what's the other one? That's a big change. No. Yeah, the other one is the shot clock is now in line-outs. They're pushing you. You know, at scrum time, they're making sure that you're quicker in there. But all of that, you know, suits us. We still got a lot of scrums. We still got a lot of penalties. Line-outs is still important. Yeah, so we can't really moan about any of the laws. We understand. There was a few instances on, I wouldn't say foul play. I mean, what's his name? Canaan's was bad luck, but definitely a little bit reckless, you know. You can't just put your foot out there and hope he doesn't hit somebody's head. I think Bongi definitely also was lucky not to get a yellow card for when he went in there, when he made the tackle there. And then overall, I think we conceded 13 penalties, and Jaco Paper took it through all the penalties this morning, and there was definitely 7 or 8 that's avoidable. That wasn't accidents, that's stupidity from our side. So all in all, we're happy with the laws.
So having played those new laws, you feel confident next week that you're going to have it under control, especially with Jaco Paper coming in and helping you guys?
Yeah, he sits one-on-ones with the players, with the captain who was Peter Steff there, with Jesse who was vice captain, and then, you know, with the wingers to talk to the touch judges or the ARs, the Edwell on the one side, and then you know, other wing on the other side, the props, how to communicate, those kind of things. So since the World Cup started, we've just changed our mind around. Even though we're right, you know, that doesn't mean you can be disrespectful towards the referees and ARs and everybody, and I think that helped a lot. And having Paper in here now, we even more understand under how much pressure a referee is. He actually told us the other day they make 950 decisions during a game, or non-decisions, you know, not to make a decision. So to make maybe 20 mistakes in a game is not that bad. It's maybe still a A.
What are the length that crept up in the selection, and it caused quite a fair bit of debate, was that of Jan Hendrik Wessels.
SA Rugby, or when I was the director of SA Rugby, we have no control over what the franchises do, where they play players. We have a pony system, which is players of national interest, which we contribute money to. When a player plays SA schools and he goes to a province and is in the under 20 setup, if he's good enough, he makes hopefully the previous year our SA schools team and then our junior Springboks team. He goes into the academy. And then, we even for a young guy, we give a pony contribution, sometimes just 100,000 or 60,000 or 150,000, and then you get the guys who win World Cups, who starts for you, like who's playing in South Africa, that we contribute a few million towards their salary. So Jan Hendrik Wessels was one that we earmarked through our EPD system since 2013 when we started. And he was always a loose head. He also played locked. He actually played loose head with Andre Guventer at Grey. I think they're a year apart, but they packed next to one another. So we had Joseph Dweba now in the system for 4 weeks, 4 test weeks. He was involved, and prior to the World Cup, he was involved in alignment camps and normal camps. We now had Andre Guventer involved on a tour, on a match day, on a warm-up, on an alignment camp, on a training week, and in match week, and traveling. So we now know how that is. He's got that experience. Grobis is obviously one of the standout hookers. I don't think anybody can argue that the Bulls went the deepest in the competition, and their lineups was definitely good. I don't know if it's Andries or maybe the liner caller, but Grobis has definitely improved a hell of a lot, and is a straightforward third choice at this stage for us. But then the nice thing now about Jan Hendrik is he's covering for you 1 and 2, which makes the selection, if we go to 2027, it's not to say that Andre Guventer can't grab that number 2 jersey. It's not to say that Pongi is definitely still going to make the next World Cup. It's not to say that Malcolm's knee won't back up again. So what we're trying to do is expose guys to our Springbok environment as much as possible. Now, if you think about it, it's actually just 2 weeks that Jan Hendrik Wessels is with us and will be with us. And then maybe he might play against Portugal. Now, Andre Guventer was with us 2 weeks. And Neertling Forsier was with us 2 weeks. Tux was with us 2 weeks. When we go to Durban, we're just going to pull him in. Sometimes during this week here, we might just draft a player like Ian Horn in and come and train with us here. So, because they're local, it doesn't cost a lot of money. So, the group is 39, but the group is actually 46 because we are preparing not just for Ireland, we are also preparing for Portugal.
Last year you picked, I think, in total 54 or 50 players in the squad, just in the standby squad.
Yeah.
And yet still on social media there's some discussions about who didn't make it and who was unlucky. Is this probably the healthiest the Springbok rugby's been in terms of depth since you've been around? Yeah,
well, I must say I love it when the people get into it and have their opinions. It shows that they watch rugby and they follow rugby and they know that they know the game, and sometimes they make you think. Of course, when you look at 4 hookers, it looks stupid, but he's not just a hooker; he's a loose head also, and we're going to use him at loose head and as hooker. And that unfortunately for a guy like Tux Ntutuku, who played for us and he played really well, he's going to miss this week and next week, but then the week when we play in Durban, he's going to train again with us there. Not to say he's going to play in a test match, and then the next week it's a Portugal test match. So I fully understand if people who's not part of our setup, sometimes things look a little bit weird. Again, it looks like 4 scrum-offs, but Faf does have a niggle. So we actually have 3 scrum-offs there just to cover Faf. There's guys that we've put time and effort in through our EPD systems, not just financially, but IP-wise during the under-20s by Bafana and by Louis Kunda, performance manager. A guy like Sasha went on the SAA side tour with us last year just to get used to how we do things, how we operate, how we pick our team, how we have a half-time talk, how we, just handle ourselves in public. And that experience for him was just wonderful. When he went on Saturday, you could clearly see that a guy like Jordan, Jordan was doing so many great things, but then he would just slip when he ran through a gap. Kicked one ball, unfortunately, out in the full, missed one kick for poles. But overall, he had a hell of a good defensive game. But then Sasha, who was in our system, was used to us. He just settled in. So sometimes I can understand that people are upset about Elrich, people, Jean-Luc, Sia Masuku, there's a lot, Ruben, Wilco, but all of these boys, hopefully, if things goes well against Ireland, can maybe play against Portugal.
Rassie, hi Rassie. You've made mention of Wilco, and Wilco's been on your radar for some time. Does he remain there?
Yeah, he's on the standby list. You see, the thing here is you've got Frans Malherbe and Vincent Koch, who've delivered consistently. And then you've got Trevor Nyakane, who played in the World Cup final when Vincent was out, and who's back here. We'll look at Trevor now. It's not to say that Trevor can't, or any of these players can't fall out of the system if we pick up that some of them are not fit enough. I'm not talking about Trevor specifically, but some of the French players and some of the guys who came from Ireland and some of the guys who come from a premiership. This is a group. The 23 has not been picked yet. So we can always swap somebody if somebody have a niggle or he doesn't really do well. That's why I didn't answer your previous question. I do think our depth is healthy. Last year we had one fly-off, at the World Cup final. Now there's 5 guys that we probably can put there. So yes, Wilco's in the mix. He's on our radar.
Rassie, just a question around the fact that this might get now in the Springbok camp. Does that create a good sense of competitive health within the team?
Yeah, our motto is, we fly in a V formation and we rotate. It's not always the same bird who flies in front, He gets all the drag, so we don't always see how he flies in front. Sometimes it's Peter Steff. Sometimes you must just fall in the back and honk and encourage. And sometimes you have to lead. So if a player, steps out of that V formation, he feels the drag. And if he doesn't fall back into line and understand what we're trying to do is, normally we have a chat to him, explain it to him, give him a chance to think about it, rectify his attitude and make sure it's healthy competition. We don't want him to give up his position. We want him to fight for his position. So it's I would say it's healthy competition, and those guys who doesn't see it as healthy competition, we just work out. We give them a chance, we explain it to them, and if they see Gat all the time, unfortunately, then there's not place for that in the Springbok team.
Rassie, talking about players and wanting about players, there's been a lot of talk about some overseas-based players. And we've seen the success of Andre Estes and Jasper Wiese, and now Thomas Toy, who's got a premiership and played some of their best rugby. How difficult is to monitor players? Some of the names will be coming out, like Tyron Green, Bernard Janssen from Rensburg, John Augustus. How difficult is it to try and track all the various different sort of players around the world? And sort of what's your message to those players who are overseas and not maybe on our screens every single weekend but remain available?
We measured 98 players, and we call it a roadmap on each player. So Augustus was measured, but he's competing with Evan Roos, Kwagga Smit, Jasper Wiese, and then you can still move Jean-Luc Dupré there. And there were some games in the latter stages which he didn't even start. It's difficult. It's then the Japanese players, they play a fast running game. Their numbers is high on the GPS stats and so on. But yes, it's difficult to track. But once we are here where we now, and we've got all the players with us here, it starts calming down, you know, because Andre was with us, but he can't play. Jasper is still with us, and he still can't play. Yeah, you know, the Bulls players weren't available, but now they can train, and they must learn a few things very, very quickly because they missed 2 weeks of training. And the week before that, the Stormers missed a week of training before they fell out. And it almost looked like the Lions also went through at one stage. So it was really a juggling act. But now it's all settled. We know who's injured. We know a guy like Kane and Moody will be ready for the Irish second test. You know, there's not a lot of guys. Stephen Kitchoff, John Klein, Leroy, Cameron, Jordan, Henku, and Damien will be out for the Irish series, but Kane might play that second game.
Rassie, you mentioned roadmaps and growing with players to EPT systems. How do you then juggle rewarding that persistence and then also rewarding current form?
Yeah, current form is also, I don't want to sound wise or say I know all the answers. I'm just saying current form is when you play against a team and you play brilliant, you must also take in account who is that team that you are playing against. So teams that play in the European Cup play much better opposition than teams that play in the Challenge Cup. It's just a fact. People must just understand that. It's that it's level of those two competitions are massive. So for a team to win the Challenge Cup is fantastic for the Sharks. I mean, because they struggled in the URC. And it actually shows for a team that lost 7 games on the trot, or 8, and then we go and win the Challenge Cup. It just shows you how far the URC is behind the European Cup, if I can call it that way. So the small things we track is your work rate, is your tackle efficiency, is your clean-out technique, you know, is your passing skills. People look at stats, that's easy, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but they look at stats as how many kicks are over, you know, how many tries were scored, how many meters were made. But that is stats, that's the result of other hard work, of fundamentals, of cleaning out the breakdown, of scrumming well, of knowing your calls as a fly-off. And talking about the EPD system, guys who's gone through that, and I guess you're referring like a guy like Sia Masuku, I guess that's what you're referring to. Jordan is one of the players who didn't always was fully in the EPD system, and you could just see him struggle, but he was part of the EPD system at stages. But you could see Sasha just slotting in because the under-20s had the same game plan. So Sia is definitely not too old. He's 27, 28. You know, when the World Cup is there, he's 32. That's 2016 was 38 in the World Cup, you know, so he can play another 2. But we must give him more time to settle, more time to get used to the Springbok way of doing things. Again, when we're in Durban, we'll get him into the mix there, having trained with us, and hopefully throw a few flyers there into the Portugal test match.
Last English question over there, and then Afrikaans comes please.
Coach, just quickly on Sia Kolisi, a few weeks ago his club owner had some very critical words about him. Now that he's back in the system and you've seen him and you've assessed him, where is he in his fitness? Is he going to be good to go against Ireland?
Yeah, Sia will be captain, and Sia will play fixed flank, and Sia's fit, and Sia's got no injury, and Sia's not fat, and Sia's not transparent.
Any Afrikaans, or should we continue in English?
Quick English one.
Yeah, goeie.
When you look at the Ireland and Portugal series in particular, with the Welsh test aside, how do you now balance the priorities of winning that series but also putting in the preparatory steps for the next World Cup?
It's actually easy compared to 2019 because we didn't have a 2020. And now I've said this a lot. But we suddenly have 13 test matches, which we can juggle. And we had to in 2021 and 2022, we at some stages had to play a Wales team and then put a totally different team who play against Wales. You know, at Argentina we played a away team. So suddenly now we can filter players slowly into the oven and see if they can come out all right on the other side. You know, I will never forget. I played with a few players. I remember Gaffie de Tooy was one player that he just got thrown in there in New Zealand and his career was over. You know, so we really lost 2020 and we couldn't build a hell of a lot. But we now have 2024 where we have games like the Wales game where we could try 4 players. Now we've got this series where we've got 4 new players also. Then suddenly there's 8 new ones. And then you've got the Portugal test match. Then you might try 4 or 5 players again, and all of a sudden you've had 50 new players whose caps already. And then obviously obviously Ireland's massive. It's the biggest competition for us this year. But then after that it's the Rugby Championship, and you know there you will actually pick the players that really did well when they got the new players who got their chances when they played against Wales and when they played against Portugal and when they played against Ireland. So it's a not much easier system to have than the previous World Cup cycle.
Last question, Lars, and we're bringing in Sasha.
Rassie, just a question around Malachi Pretoria took to Twitter after the game, talking about how Tony Brown's work is sort of visible in the shaping and the attack and the shape and attack. I just wonder how you've found his influence as an attacker.
Both Tony and Jerry. And Jerry conceded 1 try. It was their line out. We won the ball and then they bounced into their hands. They could have scored 2 other tries. One, Edward did fantastic defensive works there. And yeah, a few times we were on our try line. They really played territory well. But then I thought Tony's feel for the game and his understanding, not that Felix is awesome. He's one of the best coaches I've worked with. But Tony definitely brings a little bit of a more naturalness, if I can call it that way, to our attacking game with certain principles. And then, so he scored 5 tries, which is great for him. And then on Jerry's side, we only conceded 1, which is great for him. Yeah, and then Sasha came on and he kicked really well. I mean, I know Jordan missed one, so Tony helped the kickers out. Stocker does the off-the-ball work. He does really well. Dion did pretty well in his line-outs. Dance scrums went okay. Did I miss someone out? No, so overall, I think everybody is pulling their weight.